Seen the weather report for the weekend? It's fantastic. Better than Rome. So what have you got planned? I don't know, getting the garden back in order, followed by the first barbecue of the year, or having family and friends round, or an egg hunt, or lying underneath a truck while locked to its prop shaft, supergluing yourself to a piece of public property, or closing down a bridge, causing inconvenience to 500,000 people. The seemingly mostly middle-class eco-activist temper tantrum, known as Extinction Rebellion, came to London and shut down much of the city. As unforgivable as it was unbelievable, police spent the first 24 hours as spectators and took no action as roads were closed and others' rights to live their lives or earn a living were denied. Look, measured protest is one thing. This attempt to, as one campaigner let slip, quotes, go straight to the heart of capitalism to overthrow it, is unacceptable. After all, nothing says save the planet more than smashing the glass doors of a fuel company, does it?
I quite like you in chains, Nick.
Come and see me later. Come and see me later.
God, there's quite a lot to pick up on. I mean, of course, we all agree with you. It's absolute madness that a bunch of protesters brings London, huge capital city, to a standstill. They're not reading the room at all on this one. People have to get to work. And, you know, when you hear part-time choir masters say things like, we're going to run out of food in 12 years, and the nonsense that some of them have spoken, given that actually our record on climate change in the UK is pretty good. They do have their wish list, which is to cancel carbon emissions entirely by 2025, and so on and so forth. So that at least they've outlined their goals. But my goodness, the means they are using to try and achieve their goals are so counterproductive. I would argue it's a own goal. But Nick, there's nothing wrong with being middle class.
There's nothing wrong. Indeed, there's not. Yes, they are all Rachels and Piers and Tarquins and Quint. You are probably among the more liberal of our power, I would suggest. I would imagine if there's a lot of sympathy, it might come from you. Have they misread this?
I
Have they stepped too far?
I completely sympathise with their cause. I completely agree with what they are trying to do, but I think they're going about it completely the wrong way. And I think Rachel's right. They've lost the room. And also, my problem with the protests is there isn't a proper takeaway or to-do. Actually, if you're kind of going to bring London to a standstill, then tell us what we're supposed to be doing.
They have said, they want to supplant Parliament and replace it with some kind of citizens thing. Well, no, and they want to end capitalism.
No, but no. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what are they wanting the public to do to help us reach the goals.
As they have actually made it impossible to use public transport.
So what else are we supposed to do? Yeah.
Well, the key is, of course, the decision makers and lawmakers are on their recess. People such as Karen and most of your colleagues are away.
What timing to choose while the country is on Easter holiday, Parliament is in recess, and one thing they have achieved is they have got everyone's attention. That they've achieved. But, and here's a big but, we are such a wonderful democracy. One of the big parts of our democracy is the right to peaceful protest. But not the right to disruptive protest. And I took part a month ago in the People's March, 1 million people, for a people's vote to do with Brexit. Now, that was with warning. It was on a Saturday. It was organised. It was very peaceful. And it dispersed straight away within hours. Now, that is peaceful demonstration at its best in this country. It made me proud of this country. Not this, disrupting a whole country, disrupting a city, disrupting work, disrupting people's livelihoods.
And that was on a Saturday
It's so bad. It is so bad.
And I'm not sure how much they know about climate change. You know, Britain, as at the vanguard of climate change, to suggest we're doing nothing is farcical. We have the most draconian set of rules in place for carbon emissions. We actually, last year, reduced our carbon emissions by 2%. You know, we're the lowest that we've ever been for 120
since 1990. 120
years we're at the lowest ever been. But what is shameful for me in all of this is the coppers' role in all of this, and the London Mayor Sadiq Khan. Now, I know you've got a thing on that, but yesterday, June, he might be supporting it today, but yesterday he was actually congratulating the protesters and saying thank you very very much for being so peaceful.
Well,
and we have a
well,
police... No, hang on. You can in a minute, but I just want to make my point. But the police force are standing by while these people are gluing themselves to trains, doing absolutely nothing.
Wait. Well, first, before Mayor Khan, I want to come back on two of your points.
Go.
First, in terms of the police, this is what they had to say. We need to ensure we are striking the right balance between the right to a peaceful protest and keeping disruption to communities to a minimum. We are mindful of the impact the demonstrations are having on local communities and are working hard with partners, including Transport for London, to keep London moving and open for business and visitors alike. Now, what you say about Sadiq Khan is not true.
It is true.
I heard
him yesterday.
Let's hear from the man himself, shall
yesterday.
we? Here's what he had to say.
I'm concerned about the difficulties workers are facing to get to work, the challenges the businesses are facing, but also the protesters are now targeting public transport. Our tubes are used by about 5 million people on a daily basis, our buses by 6 million, and the best way to address the issue of climate change is for people to be encouraged to use public transport or to walk and cycle. So inadvertently, the protesters are driving people away from public transport to use minicabs and other things.
Let's move to where we are today. Rachel, I want to bring you in, and I never thought I'd say these words. Perhaps the lesson should be, if you look at the power that has been gained by the LGBT lobby, who've never shut down bridges, who've never shut down roads, who through soft powers are incredible how they... Isn't there something to be...
civil rights?
I think you're right. I think broadening this out, I think it's absolutely pointless to be destructive disruptors rather than creative destructors, as Karen said. And if these people are really serious, I think they should campaign, as they are claiming that climate change is going to very much affect children and grandchildren's future. Let them campaign to lower the vote to 16 so these children can have a say in what government does. And actually, can we just hear what government is doing on this matter? The Department of Business and Industrial Strategy has said this. We've seen firsthand the impact climate change is having on our environment, and we share people's passion to tackle this issue and protect our planet for future generations. As a country, as Carol says, we've taken world-leading action to combat climate change, but we are going even further, which is why we've asked our independent climate experts for advice on a net zero emissions target and set out plans to transition to low emissions vehicles and significantly reduce pollution through our clean air strategy.
Well, you see, now, in a way, this whole thing is pointless because the government's climate change committee has already been tasked, and they're going to be reporting within a couple of weeks. And they will say maybe it's not 2050, it's certainly not going to be 2025. That is completely unrealistic.
I agree.
But here's another point about the police. You know, the police are completely understaffed. They've been cut by 20,000. No, really. And they've got to deal with this.
He's not
just
lying.
now we've had the report that attempted murders have gone up.
Karen.
And the violent crime has gone up, and they're dealing with disruption like
they've
this.
Closed all the police stations.
So
there aren't any clinks anymore.
Right, in that our police are his point is our police are understaffed, so therefore these protesters should not be disrupting our city like this because we need them to be dealing with much more serious issues.
Then, Karen, the police officers we do have to be effective. And there is video going around now, and if they're in costume, it's extraordinary. But I'm going to say they are police officers dancing with the protesters.
Well, what do you want them to do?
I want them to uphold. I want them to put it.
But they are within the law. They're not breaking the law. With the exception of the Shell building, they're not breaking the law.
June, please, you did ask. I want them to enforce the 1986 Public Order Act, which makes it an offence to block the Queen or King's Highway. Instead of dancing with these protesters, they should carefully and respectfully round them up and gain access back to the streets.
Policemen?
Yeah, they are.
I mean, when I go to Notting Hill Carnival, they often have people dress up as these and dance.
You look at the most extraordinary good costumes.
The point is that they should be doing important work in dealing with serious violent crime.
That's the point.
That's what they should be doing, not dealing with a disruption like this.
Let's hear from one of the protesters, Carol, then to you. This is somebody who decided to chain themselves, or rather padlock themselves, to a truck.
Oh, God. I've locked myself onto the lorry just to make sure that it doesn't get taken, so we can keep the road as long as possible.
Why are you here? What's the message today?
We're trying to say that there's a massive crisis, there's an emergency that's not being seen to and it's not being managed by our authorities.
Critics are saying that you've caused huge disruption to ordinary Londoners. What do you say to those critics? Why do you think it's still worth it?
Yeah, I mean, I totally understand that position. We're really sorry to create that disruption. I don't really want to be under a lorry for 10 hours, but I mean, if you look at it really clearly, the dire consequences are going to be so much worse.
Sky News' Helen Ann Smith was asking the questions. I know how she feels. It was horrible being stuck to that part of the scenery. Carol?
Yeah, tough. You know, the thing is, why don't these protesters go to the heart of where the carbon emissions are the very worst?
Go to
Why
Chinese embassy.
well, let me make the point. Why aren't they on the streets of Beijing, and protest there, where carbon emissions have gone up by 60% in China over the last 10 years? But they won't go there.
Or even America.
But they won't go there, will they? Because they'll either be shot, water cannoned, or thrown in jail forever and a day. But the bottom line is, Sadiq Khan, whatever you say, June, has lost control of this city. What other capital city on the planet would put up with this? I can't imagine another capital city.
But the point, you made an important point, that 50% of all the carbon emissions is from 3 countries: America, China, and India. We as a country have done really well. We're less than 1% of the world's population, and we're about 1%. And we're doing a lot. And we should be proud of that. And there is awareness amongst the youngsters. My 13-year-old daughter said, without this protest, well before this protest, oh, Dad, we don't do something, countries like the Maldives will be underwater. So they're aware of it.
So, OK.
Ruining next holidays.
We could make this whole programme about this. But anyway.